I'm Petri, and today I want to talk about Cassiopeia, one of the extremely strong late game DPS mages and pretty unique champion. And because she's a snake, I prepared a few snake jokes, but they were too obnoxious. Get it? Like, let's just have a look at runes, okay? So, for Cassiopeia, I see two options. Either you can go sorcery with phase rush, which basically removes her only her main weakness, which is being extremely immobile, and this helps her a lot because you'll probably be the fastest champion in the game, at least most of the time when you're fighting. Next, you wanna go for mana flow band because Cassiopeia is really mana dependent, and this not only increases the mana by 250, but also gives you regen, which is not so big, but the regen is still a regen. Then you will want to go for Transcendence, because Cassiopeia is a DPS mage, and the haste is extremely useful on her. You will be building it on most of your items, so this will work very well, plus it increases your damage too. And lastly, Gathering Storm, because Cassiopeia is a late game champion. For secondary, I only run Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter, so I can stay alive for longer and put out more damage. And for offensive runes, offensive, oh my god, small runes, you wanna take double offense and armor or magic resist depending on matchup. I usually take this rune page into assassin so I am a bit more mobile and can stay further away from them. The other option is this Conqueror tree, which you wanna use when you know that there's gonna be a lot of extended team fights and you want to be there till the end. So, firstly, I would probably, as I said, you want to go for Conqueror. Then, Presence of Mind, because this is probably the best rune of this whole tree, apart from Conqueror, because every time you get a kill, you will actually get you mana you use on that kill back, which is extremely powerful and lethal in some team comps. Then you wanna go Tenacity, which is not really great, but it's the best option out of these three. So this is kind of a I take it because I have to. And lastly, Coup de Grace. Somebody may try to argue that you could go for last stand when you're going for Conqueror, but it's just like with ADCs, you never go for last stand because you are still squishy. You just have a lot of healing against targets that will try to slowly get you down. And as before, for secondary tree, you want Domination with Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter for that extra healing, which combined with Conquer will be a lot. And small runes also stay the same. You just wanna get your power up and magic resist or armor. And that is going to be everything for the runes. I will see you with everything else in the game. Okay, so let's start. Firstly, summoner spells are gonna be a bit more interesting today. Just as always, Flash is instant, but to the second summoner, there's a little twist. First off, I usually take Ignite because it's a great tool and always worth it. On Cassiopeia, of course, you can actually go and take almost any summoner spell and it will work. If you're against actually extremely heavy CC team, you can try to go and get cleanse because it will get the value. Otherwise, I actually once played Cassiopeia with heal, and it was worth it because first off, it makes ganking much more easier for your jungler. since you both can heal, and that speed increase works for Cassiopeia as well. But most of the time you will probably just go for Ignite because it's good. Sometimes I even go for Teleport, but that's only if my top laner doesn't take it. Now to the items. You usually want to start with Tear of the Goddess because all of the mana it gives you, and Cassiopeia is extremely mana reliant. In laning phase it's not so bad because you got your mana returned, but once you get into fighting you drop really low really fast. So Tear of the Goddess is a good thing. If you know that your opponent is also a late game champion and you won't get much interaction, you can go for Dawn's Ring, since it allows you to ah, since it allows you to get a quite good start and farm much more easily. Another option about this one, if you really, I would probably use this only if you have a duo jungler, is if you want to play extremely aggressively early and then you want to take Corrupting Potion. But as I said before, Tear of the Goddess is probably the best option most of the time. After that, I would probably immediately start, if you won't get it as your first item, take it on your first back. Or, because, okay, I'll try to go a bit more normal. As your first item, you always want Archangel Staff, because it gives Cassiopeia mana, you need mana, increased damage is a nice twist, but the mana is much better. Oh, shit. Uh, you will turn it to Stars Embrace sooner or later. But important thing is that you want this item always as your it's your priority because you get mana. After that, you usually want to go for your mythic, which is always going to be Leandris, which gives you ability haste, which is really important because you are then able to spam your E and Q more easily. But most importantly, it gives you magic penetration, which again on a high, I would almost call Cassiopeia mid lane hyper carry. She's just she's a mid lane hyper carry. So, anyways, this is going to be your second item. You may, if you play against really strong early game AD champions, you probably will try to get Seeker's Arm Guard before you finish Leandris. And if you're playing against Zed, and specifically Zed because you see Zonia's right here, this is like the ultimate counter to Zed. So sometimes it's better to get Zonia's second and Leandris third. Sometimes being if you play against Zed. As for your third item, usually it's going to be Rylai's, or if you somehow got extremely fat, it's Rabandon. But we're gonna talk about normal game. Rylai is really good for uh, Cassiopeia because um, it mostly benefits even more if if you're using phase rush, because then you get bonus speed from your Q, passive phase rush, and you slow your enemy. So it's extremely easy for you to fight them. And every time I play Cassiopeia, I go for Morali Scepter because it's just really good. And also, it gives you some health, which works well for Cassiopeia really well. I I'm a bit drunk of. Well, anyways, uh, for your next item, it's probably going to be either Banshee Whale, well, Rabandon, or as I was saying before, you can. Oh, I did was not. Well, anyways, You want to get Rabandon every time, since you don't have to get boots, and this is just extremely strong because it gives you free stat boost. Free stat boost. And yes. Anyways, if you're going against enemies who are trying to get all those, how would I call it, flash engages, for example, like Annie with her empowered abilities, you want to go for Magi Swell, which gives you that ability shield and allows you to survive that first burst and kill the enemy afterwards. And this could very well be your main build. If you feel like you don't need that spell shield, I usually would recommend Morellonomicon because the Grievous wounds work really well for Cassiopeia, since she just deals constant damage, so there's no way they would be able to heal during the fight. One last thing I will say is I would not recommend going for Magi's. It is strong and it gives the movement speed, but I just think that on Cassiopeia other items are better. Every single of these items has its reason why it is there, and Magi's, even though it's strong, just does not fit. With that out of the way, we can have a look at abilities. First off, Cassiopeia's passive is really simple. You can buy boots, and with each level you gain a bonus movement speed. So right now I'm level 6, I get 24. When I level up, I gain I gain 72 bonus movement speed, which, as you can see, you're moving faster than many champions who actually will get their boots. So it helps Cassiopeia a bit. For your second ability, we got your Q, Noxious Blast. It's a AoE spell with a short delay, which after casted will deal a high amount of magical damage, plus will poison the target, which, well, it deals a high amount of magical damage over time, so that's it. And enemies become poisoned, keep that in mind. Plus, you will get a bonus movement speed. So every time you are starting a fight, you usually want to start with Noxious Blast because you will get that beautiful movement speed and are able to navigate around enemies. Your second spell is Miasma. Also, I could say it's your probably longest range. I'm not talking about ultimate right now. So you usually want to use this to check some brushes. I usually use this on the pixel brush in the river because you always can be sure that you hit someone who is in there to check for enemies. And if you get a movement speed, you know that someone's there. And since if you are stacked, you can be. Oh my god, you can get rid of all the mana you spent on this, so we can do this quite often. Uh, your second spell is Miasma, which again, as your Q, will poison the enemy. But this spell gives you a beautiful this in this area beautiful effect to every enemy which is called grounded. If you wouldn't know, grounded means that they can't use any mobility at all. That includes flash, any teleports, dashes, they just can't move. Anything other than basic right click movement just doesn't work. But Miasma also slows them, so enemies just can't do anything. They are a sitting duck, while you are free to do anything you do with them. This spell can be used with flash, so for example, if someone is really far away and you really want to chase them, you can probably now we're counting their low, you can miasma and flash to get really close and then finish them off with rest of your abilities. And that brings us to bread and butter of Cassiopeia, her E, Twin Fang. Uh, I'll leave it here so you can read it. But first off, Twin Fang is a basic point and click ability. Every time you kill a unit with Twin Fangs, or the unit dies while the Twin Fang is being casted, that means that it's on traveling this way, you get refunded 50 mana, which is the exact cost of Twin Fang, meaning that you can get basically free farming if you're last hitting right. Another great thing about this ability being free farming is useful if you somehow get pushed under your turret, which can happen quite easily in, with many champions. Because, as you know, if tower hits an we know Cassiopeia. If tower happens to hit a caster minion, you need two basic attacks as melee champion to finish that minion off. But with Twin Fang, it's really easy to just hit them with auto attack and then Twin Fang them. So under tower you have much easier time farming. But the funnier part comes when you realize the beautiful sec the I would say second part of the ability, that if the enemy is poisoned, they will take additional damage and you will restore health. So if they got hit by Q, you can easily just deal extreme amount of damage within a short time, build up your Conqueror and just keep going because your Q has quite short cast time too. So you can just keep healing and dealing damage. And here comes the special extravaganza thing. Tell me, what does the thing say? If the enemy is poisoned, it does not say if you poison them. So, maybe you've heard about these champions, but what does Singe do? That's right. Singe poison his targets with his Q. What does Timo do? He poisons his targets. Same goes for Twitch. What I'm trying to say here is that if you hit enemies that are poisoned by any of these champions, you will get the bonus damage of Twin Fang. So I just wanted to be known that any poison in the game can trigger the bonus damage. You usually will still hit them with your Q because reasons, but it's a nice thing to know, in my opinion. Because if they're on far away, uh, if they're far away from you, they might be able to easily get away from the Q. But this is a bit shorter, but with your movement speed, you might be just able to just give them that one hit for 500 damage. Anyways, now we get to the coolest ability in the game ever, called Petrifying Gaze. And Petrifying Gaze is extremely useful. You get it like Petri. If you want to know more about bad jokes, I'm free on Wednesday afternoon. Anyways, you will slow targets in front of you. It's 40% slow for 2 seconds, and you will deal 700 damage. The thing comes when the target is facing you, you will instead stun them for those 2 seconds. And it's just it's just really cool. You can easily turn fight with this ability because it's an AoE 2-second stun. And the best part is that this can be used with a flash. So if you're trying to just get a pick or are in a team fight, you can easily flash your ultimate. and basically destroy any defenses enemies have. You can easily stop front lines and pick off their carries, and it's a fight changing ability, and I think that it's really strong. There's not much to say this, it's just really large AoE stun. What I will try to say, realize that it has a short wind up, so you can't usually use this as a defense unless the target really knows that they are. Uh, oh my god. You can't use it as a defense unless the target is extremely vulnerable in this moment. I usually want to use this ability while I'm not seen. So, for example, if there's a fight over objective, I just wait in the brush, and when they're coming, I try to gaze them. Otherwise, in a team fight, it's also really easy to do because when you're in a fight and are having a lot of worries about other parts of your team, it's really easy to overlook this little animation right here and get turned to dust. And that probably is everything to abilities. Obviously, there are not much combos apart from Q and E them. Q every time you can, and miasma if the target is mobile. It's no combos, so we're gonna get into laning. On early levels, you are extremely but extremely immobile. So you want to let enemies push to this area around here and try to freeze the wave. And it's quite okay in this part because, as I said, you have easy ways to delete minions. So your tower should not take you any gold. And enemy jungle cannot go on you. If they would happen to jump on you under your tower, you can easily escape with your Q and W, and you set up easy ganks for your teammates. So always try to get on your side of the map in the early levels. In mid game, I usually still am trying to farm up and get easy picks whenever I can, which should be quite possible with your kit. And I'm just trying to go into single single targets which I can take. I would not necessarily recommend taking objectives, even though you are going to, and you should not just don't do objectives. But don't spend too much mana on them because with just one QE, you are spending almost 150 mana. And if you're going on, you are forcing yourself to be more vulnerable because when enemies come, you might not be ready to fight them. And in the late game, just stay with your team. Never try to go alone because it's quite risky and you are squishy. And just win the game because if there's a team fight and you can get in a range of a target without dying, you will win. So that's the basic to lining. And now for some matchup parts. And this is gonna be quite funny. First off, you are really good against other mages because of your healing from E, and you actually have better mobility than some other mages. So you are quite good in fighting them since you can deal a lot of damage and keep yourself healthy. And that brings us to the awkward thing because I think that for Cassiopeia, one of the best matchups is Yasuo. Now, why is it Yasuo really good. First off, you can completely shut him down with Miasma, because once Yasuo cannot use his dash or ultimate, which by the way is a mobility spell, so while Yasuo is in Miasma he can't ult you, but you have extremely easy way to proccing his shield with your Q, and and your Q also can't be blocked by his wind wall. So you can basically just let him push, which Yasuo's usually do, and every time he gets his shield, just get it down and try to poke him a bit with your E. In comparison to that, I think that Irelia, which is in some ways similar to Yasuo, is your worst matchup ever. Because first off, Irelia has extremely high early game damage thanks to her passive once she's stacked. But she does have a mobility, but her mobility is much faster and goes a long further distance than Yasuo, so you might not be able to miasma her in time. Plus, at least in my opinion, her stun is a bit more reliable, so she can jump on you really easily. So I usually ban Aurelia when I play as Cassiopeia. Uh, Anything else I would like to add? I would probably recommend you to go and into practice tool for maybe like a 10 minutes before you try to play Cassiopeia, because it's really just about being smooth with your E and movement. You never want to view your target and then just E and stand in one place. You want to be moving and be harder to hit by abilities, because then you're just throwing away that move speed buff. So you wanna move around and make it harder to hit yourself. If the enemy is smart, they will still hit you, but make it hard for them. And with that, that's going to be everything. Please subscribe if you would like more content. You can watch other videos which will show up right about now. And I will see you in the next video. Petri out!